Thank you. Yeah, I don't usually, tout my credentials before a talk, but this is a healthcare-related blockchain talk, and so I think it's only appropriate that I just say what my background is in health. I'm a blockchain dev, but actually I come from biomedical science. When I was a research assistant, I did genetics and epigenetics research. Then as a graduate student, I worked on T-cell anergy, immunology, and as a postdoc, I worked on amyloid diseases. So then I went and I was as faculty at the University of New Mexico before I quit science altogether, worked on something that was more interesting to me, and there I also was working on amyloid research. But today I'm going to talk about stealth. That's our coin. I know I'm going to try to make it more general than just a coin talk, discuss some of the challenges of crypto these days, kind of give an overview where I think we are in cryptocurrencies, and then say how stealth is going to address these issues. So the first thing I want to do is kind of explore our perception of money. So the scenario I want everybody to consider here is a $100 bill is on the horizon, you're in the middle of nowhere, it blows up and it like smacks you in the chest, right? What do? We'll just take a survey, so I think I know what everybody's answers is. So you have really 2 or 3 options. One option is to shred it, but that's illegal. Okay, it's illegal to shred a $100 bill. The second option is to let it blow into the wind, and maybe it'll circle back around to its rightful owner. Okay, the third is you just keep it, right? So how many here? Okay, we're going to eliminate the shredding option. How many here would keep the $100 bill? Wait, I'm sorry, don't answer that. How many here would let it blow away? That's better, because I think there'll be fewer hands. One person would let it blow away. Okay, interesting answer. All right, so most of us would probably say, well, I'm just going to keep it because there's no way to tell who the rightful owner is. When we keep that $100 bill, what do we embrace? We've embraced the properties of cash. We've embraced that cash is private, right? People think of privacy, they think of cryptocurrency and all the the bad things, right? If you read, any troll on Reddit, they're going to say, the privacy is the main thing. You're doing all this bad thing with cryptocurrency. But if they ever, unless they would throw that $100 bill away because it's a private bad thing, they've embraced that property. Okay. So the reason is as I'm talking about this, is stealth is a privacy-focused coin, and that's the main issue we try to focus. And there's lots of technical problems with privacy. So first, this is really my perspective on where we are in blockchain. Okay, in 1913, this is what a plane looked like, and this was 10 years after the first flight in 1903. You can think of it as 10, right? We just had the 10th anniversary of Bitcoin. It's 10 years after Bitcoin, was launched, and that was the state of technology for airplanes. But here we are today with the Airbus A380. This is about as big as a 737. They've been in the news, but that's not why I put it up there. So this is a big plane. I mean, this is how far we've come in this long. So clearly 10 years after the initial conception of the technology or the implementation of it, I think we're only here, and I think we have there to go. So here's what I think our areas for improvement are for blockchain as just a medium of exchange. Okay, so there's fungibility, which is the ability for any one token or unit of exchange to be interchangeable with another unit of exchange. There's scalability, that's an issue that's perennial. And then there's transaction speed, okay? How fast can you get your transactions confirmed? And then of course fees. And I'll just talk about each one of these, given my time. All right, so yeah, I tried to resist making my whole talk a set of memes, because they're so fun, but I came up with this one, why isn't adoption up there? I don't really see adoption as a technical problem or any kind of problem at all. I mean, if you think about in 1913, this guy standing here in the plane, he's like, it's cool, it's a plane, it can let you fly. And then there's this guy, in a 1913 bowler's hat, saying, yeah, but there's no adoption. I mean, it was silly back then. Just think how stupid these people would have sounded saying such a thing, back then. So what is a key component of any sort of monetary unit? It's fungibility. And I put the Facebook logo up here as a, sort of meme making. That's to draw attention to the fact that in order to have fungibility, you need to have privacy. Facebook, of course, is notorious for its lack of privacy these days. So there's a $100 bill to remind you what we're talking about. So the first thing we need to do is just get through a couple of technical concepts. Okay, so the first one is an account-based ledger. We have two types of ledger in blockchain. We have account-based ledger, we have UTXO ledgers, okay? Don't let the acronym fool you, it's a simple concept. But the account-based ledger is something everybody's sort of familiar with, right? You have starting balances, you add some external funds to a balance, to an account, and then there's a transfer of $2 from Bob, and so on, okay? So we're used to that. That's how we balance our checkbook. I hope that's clear. The main thing is that Alice has to register an account and Bob has to register an account, right? So the accounts are known, they're registered, okay? But account-based ledgers make a non-fungible system. Okay, so let's imagine this chain of transactions here where you go sent from Bob to Carol to Ted, and oh no, who's this guy? It's anonymous. No, it's not. Can anybody guess? Of course it's Alice, right? Bob, Carol, Ted, and Alice. So the same way that most of us who are familiar with this cultural reference would have inferred Alice from that last diagram, trust me, big data guys can infer the ownership of accounts in this sequence here. Okay, and if I would have X'd out Carol, does anybody know what privacy protocol we would have gotten? Mimblewimble, right? That's how Mimblewimble works. It takes out Carol, but still, if you had Bob, Ted, and Alice, you would be able to make these inferences. Okay, so the second concept of the talk is just a UTXO model. Like, whoa, why did they name it that? I don't know. It's an acronym with an X in it. But really, a UTXO model is like traveler's checks. Okay, so what you do with the traveler's check is you have a unit you want to send to somebody. That unit can break up. Once you send it, you sign it. There's Satoshi's signature. I faked it. It's not real. Okay, and he sends 90 to Hal Finney in this case, and there's a change transaction back to himself. When he signs this check, you can't spend it anymore. Nobody can spend it, right? And then these new checks will add up to the old one. We're ignoring the idea of fees here. And the change plus the remittance will equal the old one. And these can be spent because they're not signed. Okay, I call that a traveler's check model. That's really the UTXO model, okay? Now, UTXO can be, as they say, anonymized. And because it can be anonymized, it can be fungible. And without going into cryptography, you can take all these UTXOs and shuffle them up cryptographically such that you don't know which one is being spent here. And there's several protocols for that. Zcoin, ring signatures, which is in Monero, and Zcash is another zero-knowledge protocol. So that's how you can get fungibility from a blockchain, but there's a problem with this type of UTXO model. They tend to be slow. Okay, so the next item on that list is fungibility. So electronic cash needs to be scalable, and this is just to give you a sense. Okay, so the area here, not the diameter, but the area is the number of transactions. How many little circles, orange circles, can you fit in this big thing here? Like a ton. All right, so there's 175 million Bitcoin transactions, I think predicted to be this year or so, or maybe it was last year. 10 billion for Apple Pay, and Visa was 140 billion. So this is Bitcoin, right? And I think the mempool's filling up right now. We're not even close to this. Like, how are you going to address this, right? It's got to be a technical solution. Okay, so then the second thing is it needs to be fast. So we've gone over fungibility, there's speed, okay, and there's also scalability. And this is just a really interesting slide from my perspective, if you really think about it. So when you send an international wire, it takes 5 days. Okay, I do this kind of stuff all the time. I've worked with a couple of businesses, and in my own personal business, I've sent money internationally by wire a lot. Same with domestic. Okay, 5 days and 1 day. Okay, now Bitcoin is 10 minutes. What does 10 minutes mean on the scale of these other speeds? This is it. That sliver is 10 minutes in a day, and that bar is a day. It's a quantum improvement. It's like going from a stagecoach to that biplane we saw at the beginning of the slide. It's just a huge jump. And the guys with the bowler hats these days, the trolls, would say, well, PayPal and credit card are fast, They're only fast on one side of the equation. Okay, these 1 minute and 10 seconds, that's not the user experience when you put your credit card in. But in settlement is more like up here or longer, right? And really the breakthrough here in terms of speed of transactions is Bitcoin goes into settlement in 10 minutes. These other guys who I'm kind of throwing in here because I have to, they don't go to settlement in 10 minutes. So only one half of the transaction, if you can actually think of a transaction as being completed at all, if only one half of it is complete, it takes several days. And then you have these other technologies. There's stealth quantum proof of stake, which is in testnet, so it actually works. Has 5 seconds block. BitShares has 3-second blocks, and there's Nano that's down to about half a second. Okay, so this is a speed that we went from. We went from several days to settlement. Now we can get half a second settlement. It's pretty nuts. And the last aspect I was going to talk about is fees. Do they matter? Do fees really matter? Well, check it out. This was yesterday, the start of this conference, 4-3. Smith's is no longer accepting Visa. I don't have anything but Visa. Smith's and Rouse they have here in California, it's no longer accepting Visa because of high fees. So anybody who tells me fees don't matter, I mean, they matter. They matter because these guys are not even going to use Visa. They're not even honor Visa anymore. So Visa's out. So the final slide on what areas of improvement we need in crypto is that it should be feeless, right? You can do feeless, believe it or not. So let's compare these traditional forms of payment, international wire. To send $1,000, it costs $40 to send $1,000 by international wire. I just sent several $1,000s, and it was about that much. Then PayPal, okay, $30 to send $1,000. They will take that. That's a percentage. That scales, And a credit card, that scales too. So that's almost $30. Domestic wire is 20. These are fixed. International. So the bigger you get, unless if you're going international, we have to pay some juice on the conversion, is going to be about $40. And then Bitcoin, international, you name it, these days, well, when I made this slide a few days ago, is 54 cents. So here, another quantum jump, settlement for 54 cents. I mean, it's crazy. Anybody who thinks that blockchain can't, offer something for the world is just absolutely nuts or delusional or something. So then it goes cheaper, and this does scale with basically market cap. BitShares is 2.79 cents. Dodge is 4 cents. The stealth quantum proof of stake using a proof of work mechanism aims to be 0, and it's down here with Nano. You can't make a bar that's 0 in length, so I'm using a ghost, all right? So it's cheap. It can get completely cheap, except, there is a cost to everything. And somehow this is a little bit out of order, but I was going to talk about scheduling. Like, what is scheduling? Well, proof of work and proof of stake are competitive consensus mechanisms. And so when it's competitive, you don't have a time and say, oh, you're the winner now. You fight until there's a winner. You fight the different consensus protocols until there's a winner. If there's proof of work, you work until there's a winner. If it's proof of stake, you stake coins until there's a winner in the staking lottery. And if you just look at these, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 7 minutes, these block times for Dodge, which is one of my faves, are very irregular. It's supposed to be 1 minute spacing, but these were all over the map in terms of spacings. And Bitcoin, as we all know, if anybody tries to send Bitcoin, it's always that longest block of the day when you want to send something quickly, right? It's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but to this day it was not too bad. Here's two we're supposed to be within 10 minutes. I mean, this was almost instant within a minute, then you had to make 10 minutes, and then between 30 minutes and an hour, that was a 40-minute block. I mean, you can't depend on blocks like that. And so what quantum proof of stake uses is something called a scheduled block production. And so what that means when you have a block production, you can have super regular spacings and they can be super tight. Like BitShares was the original scheduled block production algorithm, 3-second block times. Stealth will have 5-second block times. So now I'm going to talk about how to make a coin feeless. First, what you can do is you can require a proof of work to be submitted with the transaction. What is a proof of work? Okay, this is a physical concept. Even when in the terms of blockchain, proof of work is a physical concept. It's pretty amazing to me. I have a lot of background in biophysics, and part of that is understanding thermodynamics. So when I think of proof of work, I have a kind of a thermodynamic intuition for it. But for lay people, what the heck does that really mean? It means if you had a boulder and you marked where it started, and you said, okay, I want you to do some work. And this guy pushed the boulder from A to B across the floor with friction. We're not talking in outer space. We're talking in gravity with friction and stuff. There would be a quantifiable amount of work there. Nobody could deny that person did some work. With blockchain proof of work, it truly is that tangible in terms of the physical manifestation of the work. The only thing is really hard for lay people to understand. To go from here to understand a proof of work in Bitcoin in terms of technicals would be about half a semester of some sort of information theory course. But what you can do is you can take an input, put it in a computer, it does some work, it burns CPU cycles, it burns energy, hydroelectric for Bitcoin, okay, it's not that bad. And then it comes out the other side as a number, and this number proves the work. I mean, on a thermodynamic level, that's pretty insane, okay, to me. But it actually, that proves a quantifiable amount of work. And so what you can do to make a feeless transaction is first, okay, so here's a feed transaction. Okay, so there's $1. You want to send $1, but you got to have a $1 balance at your address, and that fee is going to go somewhere. Either on some systems it's just burnt, on other systems it goes to a miner. Okay, and how do you do a feeless transaction? Well, you take some input that has related to the transaction itself. It goes in the computer, it turns on it, it spits out a number that proves that you did some work with that input. And then you submit that. This work proof is almost a bearer instrument. If it weren't tied to the transaction, it would be a bearer instrument of sorts. Still amazing to me. And you can add that as information on that transaction that goes in the blockchain, and that's how you get a feeless transaction. Was it free? No, because you had to do some work. But did you have to account for that fee in your balance and downstream accounting? No. So that's the magic of feelessness, is it makes accounting a lot easier. It makes the transfer of funds a lot easier because you don't have to go get extra for the fee all the time. And anybody doing microtransaction, taking remittance at some sort of retail outlet, they don't want to have to deal with all these this accounting issues. So that might be it. There's our website, and if anybody has any questions, I can answer them, I'm sure. Oh, thank you.
Thank you for breaking my brain before lunch.